Hello, everyone. Hello, hi, good morning. You're so welcome, and we're glad to have you here this morning. Welcome to the franchise webinar series. I'm super excited that you could join in. Um, you know, I just, like to just, appreciate you all for joining this morning, and just let's just get engaged in the chat section. Um, can you tell us your name and the name of your company and where you're joining in from? You can just let us know what part of Nigeria you're joining in from and what your expectations are for this webinar. We're so excited to, see the chats start coming in. So you're super welcome and you can feel free to, introduce yourself and network in the chat section. This webinar promises to be very engaging and educative as this webinar is designed for you to increase your understanding of the franchise concept in Nigeria and promote franchising as a recognizable tool for sustainable growth. So we want to raise awareness of franchising opportunities, and really we're just talking about how you can use franchising as a tool to make money, as a tool for sustainable and building resilient businesses. In the times that we are, we need to just, businesses, need to just, take up models that ensure sustainability, ensure that there are businesses that are startup can be passed on to generations. So that's what we are, talking about this morning. We have two seasoned speakers for you. We're going to be taking you through two sessions, a session from our amazing speakers, Mr. Chiagozie Nwizu and Mrs. Margaret Constantaras. She's going to be talking about real scenarios going on in the franchise industry, and it promises to be very, very engaging. There's also going to be a panel session where we're going to ask the two speakers questions and just have them share from their wealth of experience. Also we also give you, the participants, the opportunity to ask your questions. So as the speakers are talking and sharing insights from their wealth of experience, I also encourage you as a business owner looking to leverage the franchise tool to take down your questions, and any one of the speakers would address it beautifully. Without very much ado, I would like to go on to introduce our very first speaker for today. He is Mr. Chiagozie Nwizu. He's the Managing Director of Franchise Business Development Services, which is a pioneer franchise development company in Nigeria and a member of the International Franchise Association. He's also the executive director of African Franchise Institute, which is a training institute that takes through franchise businesses and executives on franchising. So you should do well to have questions ready. He is part of that. He's the executive director of a training institute for franchising, so he's well prepared to answer all of your questions. He has contributed in key capacities in the development of the franchise model in Nigeria, and he's just very much ready to take us through all the things that we need to know as MDs, as CEOs, as business owners looking to leverage the franchise model. You're welcome, every single one. I see you in the chat section. We're glad to have you here. Before let's just get right into it. Let me welcome our first speaker for today, Mr. Chiagozie. Over to you, sir. Kindly take us through your presentation.
All right. Hello, everyone. Good morning. Very glad to have you here. I trust we are all doing well. Thank you very much, Stephanie, for having me. This is really one of the best things happening to the enterprise ecosystem in Nigeria today. And we're going to be sharing quite a lot of very privileged information. Like we always hear from a lot of entrepreneurs we engage in Nigeria who do not yet understand the opportunities that the franchise, systems or the franchise model, has for them. So we are going to be engaging with you. You are a franchisor. You are intending to franchise your business. You are intending to, find distributors for your business. You are dealing with expansion and at growth phase. we'll have quite a robust conversation. I'm going to talk through one or two slides while I speak, and I'm just going to start with a very quick, introduction to franchising, and then begin to dig into the challenges that obviously businesses are having in Nigeria with regards to expansion, today, so that, you just got to understand how much the conversation resonates with where your business is at, this very point in time. So franchising, as many of us know, is just a way, a business that is established and is at expansion phase, gets to give the rights to some other entrepreneur who could be a corporate investor or an individual, to leverage his proven and scalable business system to operate a successful and profitable business at another location. There are different reasons why people want to franchise their business. Of course, there's a business format franchise, which is holistically standardized, and there is the which typically you would see with food businesses like Chicken Republic. If you are in Nigeria, you wouldn't even get to know who owns that very particular outlet. The product format franchise is the retail type, the product distributive franchise, which we are very, very familiar with in Nigeria, Mokaform, Dangote, and all whatnot. Right now, but why do businesses go into franchising? For two major reasons. First reason is that you come to a place where you are not able to have complete oversight of the expansion of your business. There's a lot of demand on your products and your services. You are getting demand, say, oh, wow, I came to Lagos and I enjoyed your products, I enjoyed your services. Hey, when are you going to come to Abuja? When are you going to set up at Kaduna? I once stole Habib yogurt. Habib yogurt from, I think it was from Kaduna some years back. My kids then, they were so much in love with Habib yogurt. I had just my luggage, my hand carry luggage, but I because I couldn't go, it's a liquid stuff, I wasn't allowed to, on board with it. I had to, put it at the luggage area and waited for it to come out. With all of that inconvenience, that was a huge, a very big way to describe that Habib yogurt had demand for expansion, for franchising. So if your business is at that very place where you are looking to meet that very need, you know that definitely you are looking at franchising. Why do entrepreneurs, want to franchise in that such a situation? You do not stay in Kaduna. Maybe you have been operating in Lagos. You don't understand the terrain, the culture of the people. Why do you want to go there and set up? Right? What experience and knowledge of the local terrain do you have? Then you talk about the funding. You don't want to be borrowing from the bank at about 28% interest rate for you to expand at that very location. But you have people in Kaduna who are different places who have the money that is required to set up that very business at that very location, and they do not want to take the risk of starting that very business on their own without experience. You see, so it's a handshake, is a fantastic, partnership, and you deal with also the fact that what we call the key man risk, that you may not be very, very privileged to have employees who are able to you can send to different parts of the country and different parts of the world for them to run and manage the business the way you will do that. So that is why you need a partner who would put in skin in the game. Skin in the game means that the person is putting his money, like they say, where the money is, the heart will also go. It's a very popular saying, So this is just in a nutshell, because we have a lot we want to crack here today. Some of the reasons why you want to franchise your business. Okay, so now typically, like some of the things you would see here in my slides, we'll begin to talk about what are you giving to the franchisees. The franchisees, they want your turnkey solution. They want to access your proven system. They want to access your brand goodwill. Have you seen people that set up businesses and while they're still trying to build the brand reputation, people want to get familiarized with that very business? I think we have somebody from Slot participating in this very webinar here today. So imagine you want to start a phone business. People have distrust. Is it a repackaged China phone, or fake phone you are trying to give me for a quality one? But you see the brand Slot. It is a brand that has become, very very popular and known everywhere, and then, people can begin to say, oh, wow, I mean, there's an integrity that the brand has been able to demonstrate over time. So you are giving that very brand goodwill, you are giving training because you have a training system, you can help them set up the business, launch that very business, help them to recruit employees. It is your SOP, standard operating procedure, that is deployed. It's more like you have opened another business. However, this partner supply the money and he will be there to run that very business, more than just a manager that is hired to run that very business will do that. Then you also might be wondering, what exactly am I getting from the franchisees? Or like I said, they are bringing in the money, they're going to be there to run that very business. Then you have some other advantages that you gain for wanting to franchise your business. It helps you to accelerate, have an accelerated expansion. It helps you to minimize the burden of logistics. There's what we call economy of scale. You're able to procure. If you are a retail business, the products are still coming from you, right? And you're able to procure in bulk, and the cost of operating that very business is reduced significantly because it's being shared. Even the cost of marketing and all of that, is being shared by you and these other partners who are doing this stuff. So you're able to also become a global brand. The most important thing is that you're able to build a sustainable business that is beyond you, beyond just you. You reduce the micromanaging because the system begins to run the entire network. So McDonald's, I would recommend for you, if you're a business owner here, to go and watch the movie The Founder. The Founder is an incredible movie. Go and see how McDonald's was developed. I bet you will never be the same if you see that very movie, and your views about business expansion is going to widen, exceedingly. So it helps you to build an institution of an organization that is going to outlive you and then become a global, brand. So now let me finally come into Nigeria. There are common challenges we have here in Nigeria today, which limit business expansion. Why, when Margaret Constantaras comes up, she is an expert, as you've seen her introduction. Perhaps we can have an opportunity, Stephanie, to introduce Margaret again for people that are just joining, so that they will know she's a leading knowledge person when it comes to franchising in the whole of South Africa. And South Africa is one of the most thriving economies when it comes to franchising. We're going to hear all of that from her. So, but let us look at our own challenges. What are the challenges we have to deal with today in expanding our businesses? Capital is a very, very key one. Okay, if you have opportunities to expand your business and there is demand for expansion and you want to do organic growth, you want to make money and plow back your profit, you will be there. People that have money will take over the market from you. You will just be answering successful brand and popular brand for nothing, and the most important one is this issue of people being able to have systems in place. Franchising is known for one thing. It's about standardization and systems that it is able to, help to put in place. So, people have to deal with the fact that you are still running 2 outlets and it's giving you so much headache. And how exactly am I going to open in about 20 locations in Nigeria where I'm getting demands for expansion? How do I deal with the fact that people are already asking me in Ghana, in Togo, in different other places for me to expand my brand to this very location? So the slide I have here is dealing with all of that statistics, a high rate of business failure, the fact that, we need to begin to build institutional businesses that are third and second generation. You can fill in the details. I'll finally touch on issues around knowing how to know that your business is franchise ready. You have to look at your management experience. Do you have the capability to, because if people are buying franchise, they're not just buying into your success. They want to see what is your pedigree, what is the quality of the people who are running this organization. You have to see it from the point of view, like literally you are selling shares. People want to know that if they open the franchise, you are able to support them, right? You are able to keep renovating and reinventing that very business. You are able to keep, deploying research and development, coming up with new products, that thing that they couldn't do by themselves, that you, a corporate organization, is able to, to provide that, right? Some other things will be that I've talked about the demand. There has to be sufficient demand for expansion. I think I will just stop here. There's going to be an opportunity for questions and answers, and I would, during the questions and answers, be able to attend to more. All right. Thank you very much.
So much packed in such a short time. Thank you very much, Mr. Chiagozie. Please stay tuned to the end, for all the questions that you need answered, So like Mr. Chiagozie has already hinted, our next speaker, Mrs. Margaret Constantaras, she has a wealth of franchise experience. She's an experienced market researcher, and she's skilled in consumer behavior, but she's very passionate about the franchise industry, and she's a global franchise expert and has extensive knowledge on franchising. This is her core. Franchising is, franchising is what, she's passionate about, and she has done remarkable work so far in the South African franchise industry, even in her dealings with the Franchise Association of, so it's just we very much joy, and if we can just give an applaud in the chat section as we welcome her. Mrs. Margaret, over to you. The floor is yours. We are so happy to have you. Welcome.
Thank you very much. What a wonderful introduction. I hope I'm going to live up to it. Yes, indeed, franchising is a passion of mine, to the extent that I embarked on doing a doctorate in franchising. I'm still trying to finish it. I'm nearly at the end of it. And all this adds to my experience. Okay, as Chiagozie mentioned, we need to know how to manage and grow a business, i.e. a franchise, when we enter into that market. So I'm going to share my screen now. I hope you can all see it. I don't. Here it is here. Is it coming up?
Yeah, sometimes it takes a few seconds if you have started projecting with the share screen.
Sorry, I did try and have it ready, but we are experiencing power. So hopefully it's asking me to leave the meeting and come back in again.
Okay. Okay. So I think maybe all right. Are you good to go now, or you want us to give you some time?
Let's see if this comes up now.
Okay. All
Here
right.
We go.
Here you go.
Here we go. Right. Okay, let me just make it big. There we go. Are you all happy? Can you see that? Okay, so I'm going to address some of the key strategies for growth that we've had a look at here in South Africa, and that we picked up via the past 10 years worth of research that I have been engaged in the franchising industry. So key strategies are, number one, know your market. And the only way you can get to know your market is by a thorough market research investigation, and learn what your customers' interests and preferences are. Secondly, these are in no particular order, by the way. Secondly, make sure your branding and marketing is consistent. Keep it the same. Keep your message the same all the time. Don't put one message in one province and a different message in another province. Make sure that you are offering consistent branding, your logos, your colors, all need to be the same across all locations. That helps develop a very strong brand identity. Then, training and support. If you're working with your franchisees, make sure that they understand exactly what you expect of them. Train them in all aspects of your franchise. It is your business. Therefore, it is your responsibility to standardize the processes and train the franchisees accordingly. And in turn, they will train the employees, and that will improve satisfaction amongst the employees. They are key to your business. And that lines up with improving operational efficiency, standardizing your processes, making sure your central distribution is working, your profits, your supply chain is consistent. Have detailed operation manuals for your business. This is key to your franchisees and employees' knowledge and know-how. Then we move on to the next one. Keep up to date. Know what's going on in the industry, specifically the industry that you happen to have your franchise in, whether it be the fast food industry. There are many, many different sectors that you can enter with a franchise. Keep up to date with the technology and the trends that are going on. Speak to your customers, encourage feedback, ask them for their suggestions about improvements. How would they like to see the business improve? This actually, in point 7 that I have here, should probably be point number 1. Find the right franchisees. So it's not just a matter of finding someone that has the necessary capital that can buy into your franchise. Are they going to be passionate about your business? Do they have any experience in running a business? Do they share your vision and values? Take your time to make sure that you are choosing the right franchisee, because those are the pillars on which your business succeeds or fails. You need to encourage your franchisees by incentivizing them, encourage them to grow their own businesses. You may give them, I don't know, it's up to you to decide how to incentivize them, but for example, maybe a small discount on royalties if they exceed a certain target. Up to you as to how to incentivize them. And then number 9, keep a constant watch on your products and or services and improve them. Don't ever let your products become staid or too traditional or boring, old-fashioned. And I will mention a franchise shortly that has done that and is seeing a competition taking over a large share of the market. Okay, expand into new markets if you can. That may not be possible in the first year or 2, but as soon as you are able, have a look at different markets, look at your neighboring countries, perhaps even consider expanding internationally. Again, this is where market research comes in handy. It can help you identify opportunities and perhaps even develop a strategy to enter these new markets. And then number 11 is foster a strong franchisee community. That can help you communicate with each other, share know-how with each other. If all of your franchisees are in regular contact with each other, they can support each other, they can collaborate. It is very valuable to develop programs and or events that bring your franchisees together. Okay, so now you know exactly how to make your franchise grow. Let's have a look. I'm going to pass you back to Chiagozie just to talk a bit about the current economic franchise in Nigeria, because he obviously knows it a lot better than I do. So Chiagozie, do you want to take over and chat about the Nigerian franchise scenario, the economic landscape?
Okay, thank you very much, Margaret. We're also getting feedback that your audio is not very loud. Apparently, I don't know whether you need to get closer to your device or something. Yeah, just before we start having the Q&A session. All right, so yes, so about the landscape for Nigeria. Yeah, so we in the past 7 to 8 years, we have actually been trying to, which is a very useful information that I believe the participants here today would like to know about. When we got into the space, we had virtually the old generation franchises in Nigeria, in the food sector, the typical Mr. Biggs, Tantalizers, Chicken Republic, and then the filling station franchises. If you do a search in the Nigeria, information space, you will see that those old, organizations were being recycled for over a period of time, and these were some of the things that contributed to lack of knowledge and awareness of the growth of the Nigerian franchise sector. And with that, people had a lot of questions. I had met very leaders of very successful businesses. I believe quite a number of them in participation at this very event today, who their concerns were that they had tried to franchise in the past. However, they didn't get the right support to franchise. They needed education and training for their teams. They needed experts who are going to help them to put their franchise systems in place and keep advising them on how they can grow. They needed questions: where do I meet these franchisee partners? How do I manage them? How do I see that I give them value? What exactly do I do? They have questions about some of the older generation businesses that had started franchising, and they had some hitches with doing that. One of the biggest questions that we had was the question about the regulation. How do I manage the legal sides of my relationship with the franchisee? It's taken me 10, 20, 30 years to build this brand. I just don't want to get into bed with anyone in the name of partnership. Is there a franchise law? How is it regulated in Nigeria? How do I access, the funding? I meet so many things. All right. So good enough, we had intervention of some of the foreign development agencies like DFID, USAID, and GIZ, who came in at some point, and they supported with researches. Margaret, if you remember, in 2016, you were here in Nigeria, and you worked with me, and we led a study across the 6 geopolitical zone of this very country, trying to see how we could understand the current state. And also we commissioned studies in South Africa, which you undertook in India, USA, UAE, and in the UK. So that we could see how these other economies have been able to drive the growth of franchising, which is really doing so much, and bringing a lot of rewards. And the outcome of that very study was a report, which, by the way, please, if you are participating in this event, we can actually share that very report with you. If you are a business owner, if you don't have your email, please, you can feel free to chat us your email at the chat box. We would like to share that report with you, which came out in sometime 2017. That very report is what in the past couple of days has actually driven the growth of the Nigerian franchise industry. Franchise Institute was set up, Africa Franchise Institute. Please, you can also do a search on Africa Franchise Institute, which is was set up with the support of International Franchise Association. And works in collaboration with Lagos Business School and Faith Foundation in deploying the training in their classrooms and, of course, supporting with their curriculum and a whole lot of other best practices. Then there is a franchise association that was set up, and there were also, we began to make incursions into see that there is a proper legal framework in Nigeria. There's a franchise bill we've been working on. Recently, Nigeria Economic Summit Group had provided support towards bringing stakeholders together to do a review of some pending franchise bills. Something was eventually passed to law very, very recently, so that there's some regulation. And also, quite interestingly, we also had the legal community begin to have conversations about setting up alternative dispute resolution approaches like small claim courts, what's it called? All those other dispute resolution approaches where, as you are setting up your contracts with your franchisee, you don't just have to end up in court, which was something that many of the franchisors were very worried about. So it gives you room for you to have experts, arbitrators come in, just about a party of 3 or 5 people come in and help to resolve things, so that you don't get to the court and begin to waste your time and all of that. So the outcome of these interventions, having more experts, more professionals, even access to funding, which some banks had begun to get into the conversation, has led to the creation of a minimum of 40 new franchises in Nigeria today, local brands. I don't know how many of them that are here in this room, but we have Slot, we have, the Breading Vault, which we have just launched recently. We have Oriki, we have, Tangerine, which is a furniture franchise. We have Cleaners, a laundry franchise. So many of them are also in the works coming up today. And these new generation franchises today, they are able to thrive, leveraging knowledges that have been gathered from that very study. We are able to do things in Nigeria, create the systems, create the structure, and an enabling environment for franchising to thrive in Nigeria. I consciously chose not to use any slides. Of course, we have all this information in the report, and maybe the abridged version that we are happy to share with with you guys, the participants, if you have your details. So I think I'm going to yield back to Stephanie now. We really need to make the most of the question and answer session. We want to engage with you, right? Especially those of you here that are at expansion phase, you already have a question about how exactly am I going to expand what are your concerns? Have you tried to expand your business? Have you tried to franchise? Have you tried to access expansion funding? Have you tried to get experts that are going to help you to structure your business for expansion? Have you tried to, very importantly, expand your business beyond the shores of Nigeria? You want to open up some outlets in South Africa, anywhere. There's a lot going on we want to share with you. I don't know how many of you that are aware that even Fidelity Bank has started organizing some exhibitions to take Nigerian brands to different parts of the world. One was done in UK in November of last year. Another one is happening in the US, and we're working with Fidelity Bank as a partner. So as many businesses that are here, you want to expand abroad, make sure we have your details. We want to pre-qualify you and help you at no cost of exhibition. Exhibition booths, Fidelity Bank wants to take you to the US if you are looking to expand your products or your services there. Okay, so I'm going to yield back to Stephanie, and I also know that Margaret has a few more she's going to be telling us about how successful franchising has been in South Africa. There are some very interesting statistics that she has. South Africa, above so many other countries, even more than in the US, have the highest rate of business survival through franchising. The number of franchises that have failed in South Africa to date are not more than 5%, All right, so I yield back to you, Stephanie, and take it off from here. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chiagozie. Thank you, Mrs. Margaret. That was some lovely insight, and we're still looking forward to hearing so much more Well, that was just to sort of take a break. Let's just take one or two questions from the audience, and then Mrs. Margaret can continue with her presentation. So the question I'd just like to be throwing, our speakers today is this: at what point does one need to franchise a business? At what point does one need to franchise a business? I believe that was hinted during the presentation, but I don't know if Mrs. Margaret, I'll just leave that over to you. At what point does one need to franchise their business?
I'm not sure that it's a need to franchise, but it's a desire to franchise. So when you look at your business, can you see the wider application across different markets? So if you start up a business in one area, have you investigated how it would succeed in another area? Or maybe round the corner, a lot of franchises open outlets that are quite close to each other, and then they act in competition to each other. The other decision you need to take is, are you going to retain ownership of that franchise outlet within your company, or are you going to look for a suitable franchisee to sell the outlet to? That's another decision you have to take. There are successful franchises, for example, Burger King. All their outlets, 100% of their outlets are company owned. They have not sold any to franchisees. Does that help answer the question a little bit?
Yes, I believe so. So if you're the one that asked the question, kindly just signify in the chat section while we ask the second question. To Mr. Chiagozie. How does franchise system help grow the fintech ecosystem? How does the franchise system help grow the fintech ecosystem or space?
Okay, so that's a question I find very interesting. So there are two things that are happening in the fintech space where you may benefit. And please, I wouldn't mind if you can drop your details so that we can take up some conversation, because what we've been doing is beyond just helping businesses to develop franchises and match them to investors who want to buy franchises. We actually are building an industry, an ecosystem where we want experts to come in. So there are two ways you can benefit. Number one is that we have started doing sector-specific, innovative franchise development. We have worked with GIZ to do something in the agri space, where we looked at an entire value chain. In the agri value chain, there are 12 value chains, from the farmers all the way to the guys that do the retailing, packaging. There are tractors and fertilizer service providers, all of them, about 12 of them. And we began to create franchises. So you begin to see what franchising can do. And we're going to use this, I'll come back to the fintech. You begin to see where franchising helps not just people who have something to sell, who have products or services to sell, to meet partners who would finance the expansion. Franchising begins to also support the service suppliers who enable the entire ecosystem. We developed a franchise model of Tofan from that very project. Tofan does not have any ginger or tomato or chili, which were the specific products that GIZ wanted to see that those products are in agri space are helped through franchising. Tofan provides tractors. Through franchising, we created an Uber for tractor franchise model where you can sit in Lagos and invest in a tractor, and the tractor can chase the rain. The rain moves from east all the way to the north. You can chase the rain for an entire year and move from the east all the way and end up in Maiduguri, walking, right? And you just sit down with an app, you are watching the movement of your vehicle, you are seeing the monies coming as farmers across the nation are using you. And they're looking for 10,000 tractors, investors. This is what franchising does. We started doing that in renewable energy. Fintech space is a space where we are currently have some things in the pipeline that we are putting together. So we want to work with you, right? And see how we could begin to deploy you can have, we are a partner for I'd say we work with Odoo. Odoo is a particular, an ERP solution, right? The licensing that one can get when you have developed some products so that you can begin to sell it to users, to SMEs that require that as an ERP is a franchise model, right? But what is more important is that you can bring your fintech solutions. We need businesses in the, for example, when we deploy the Tufan franchise, you realize that some of these businesses are operating in places where you don't even have network, access to network, so they can't transact. I remember that when we developed that, we were looking at how do we have all these Paga and what are they called? All these money, all these fintech, tools for payment at places where people don't have access to banking, and they're all franchised. Paga is a form of a franchise, right? So I don't know what exactly you are doing, but I think I've left quite a lot of knowledge for you to assimilate. So it's either you are supporting franchises. Every franchisee that deploys a franchisor, right, needs to support that franchisor with insurance. Insurance can ride on fintech, with technology, with all of that. You want to partner with the host of the franchisors and their network of hundreds of outlets. You want to franchise your own fintech solution to, these are things you can explore. All right.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chiagozie. At this point, the conversation has gotten so interesting. So I'm just going to say this before Mrs. Margaret takes up. If by now you are sold and you want to franchise your business, kindly just send a private message to Judith Igwe right now saying, I want to expand through the franchise model. Here are my details, and she will take it up from there. We can schedule a consultation session with you and just walk you through the process. Again, reach out to Judith Igwe in the chat section. You just simply drop, I want to franchise my business, I am ready, and we will schedule a one-on-one conversation with you. So back to you, Mrs. Margaret. Kindly continue your presentation.
Thank you very much, Stephanie. Okay, so just talk about South Africa franchise. I'm not going to show you any slides at this point. I think I know the South African industry fairly. One of the most developed and sophisticated industries in the world. It's been running for roughly 70 years now. It started in the 1960s, the franchise industry. And currently, we have over 900 franchise systems in the country. That is different franchise brands across about 17 or 18 different sectors, from retail, from food, health services, beauty services, education, automotive services. I think just about any product or service you can dream of, there probably is a franchise out there that deals with it, right down to funeral services. Okay. Like I said, there are about 900 operations in the country, and they in turn operate approximately 50,000 franchisees. So roughly each, on average, each franchise has 50-something franchisees, but that's very much a broad average. You get franchisees like Kentucky Fried Chicken, KFC, which has close to 900 outlets in the country. That is the largest franchise. We've got Spur Restaurants, which has got about 600, and Steers, also in the food industry, about 600 outlets. So yes, the food industry, the fast food industry, and quick service restaurants is definitely the biggest sector in the country. Over the COVID pandemic, franchises did not stop developing, being economically sound. In 2020, for example, we had a number of new brands of franchise in the market. One that interested me very much was called Repurpose School Bags. And what this franchise did was it took plastic and repurposed it, recycled it, and repurposed it into school bags. And because children and education is close to one's heart. There are many more locations. Another one, interestingly enough, I don't know how people in Nigeria feel about vegan food, but this one's called Dandy Dana, also opened in 2020. It's a vegan franchise, and that's also been extremely successful and opened outlets in multiple locations. So it just shows you, if you are innovative and a bit creative, you don't have to go down with the rest of the economy. You can be successful. Established franchisors also opened outlets in selected areas, the KFC, Nando's, McDonald's, Burger King. They all opened one or two outlets during the course of the pandemic, and they're all reporting back on economic success with those outlets. I think Chiagozie touched on opening in other markets. South African brands that have successfully entered into other markets are brands like Ocean Basket. Ocean Basket is a restaurant specializing in fish, or well, all food from the sea, from the Mediterranean. It was opened by a Greek family in the 1990s. 13 years later, in about 2008, they opened in 16 different countries throughout the world. So, you know, in addition to what they have in South Africa, they've got another 200 outlets feeding some 18 million people. We also have Nando's, which is another huge success story. They have as many outlets in the UK as they do in South Africa. So you've just got to have the courage to take that step and expand. Check out your market and expand. Another business that has been very successful is a chicken fast food business by the name of Pedro's. That opened as only a year ago, and they've already opened more than 100 outlets. They started off in one province and they spread across the rest of the country. So, yeah, the strengths within the franchise industry, apart from the diversity of sectors being able to accommodate so many different types of franchise, is our franchise association, which is called the Franchise Association of South Africa, which is known as FASA. I know Chiagozie has been here. They have hosted him as a visitor. It was great to see him here in Johannesburg. And they provide, obviously, as FBDS does, a range of services to franchisors and franchisees, including education, training, networking, and so on. So yes, I don't see why Nigeria cannot be as successful as South Africa. It has everything going for it. It has a burgeoning middle class. People have the income to support franchises. It just needs to take that very big, bold step into the franchising market. South Africa is not without its problems. Obviously, it has challenges. There's a very high cost of entry for franchisees, finding the funding to open. It's difficult. They have to have a 50% cash or unencumbered deposit to be able to buy a franchise outlet. And what often happens, there have been a slew of retrenchments in the country with the downturn in the economy. So people that get their retrenchment package are often coming along and saying, I want to buy a franchise, I've got the money, or people getting an early pension. And then I just repeat the issue, make sure they are the right franchisee for the business. And that's where we are with the South African, our regulatory environment, I have to say, is far more difficult than it should be. It is very complex. there have been a lot of representations to the government to cut the red tape for small businesses. We're waiting to see whether they're going to address that. And that's where we are in South Africa. I'd like to hand back to you then, Stephanie.
Thank you so much for that informative session. I don't know, were you all hearing the numbers, 100 outlets, 60 outlets in 1 year, in 2 years? I believe that, there's such a, she also said it, there's such a potential for Nigerian businesses in Nigeria. So if you're interested in a free consultation session about how to franchise your business, again, kindly just notify, leave us a chat, put in the chat section. I am interested in a free consultation service. I want to franchise my business. It's at no cost. We would, speak with you and just, put you through. So use the chat section. There's also a link that's going to be shared in the chat section, to pre-qualify your business. So to help us know where your business is at and help us reach out to you. If you are not interested in putting up your details, you can, do that privately. You just, instead of sending to everyone, you can select the people you want to send. But it's important that that's the reason why we're here. We're here to help you expand, not just in Lagos, not just in Nigeria, but across board. Your brand can be the first to, break into South Africa. This year, there's such a possibility. Let us have your details. Let us have your email, your contact, your phone contact, so that we can easily reach out to you. Your details are safe with us, and it's a free consultation session, nothing to be paid. We're going to go back to the question and answers. We still have some very exciting question and answers that we'll be showing to our speakers. So this one is directed to Mr. Chiagozie. It says, is the Franchise Institute open for businesses to join?
Okay, thank you very much. So what the Franchise Institute does is that it supports the stakeholders in the franchise space, and namely the franchisors, or prospective franchisors. So if you are looking to expand your business, you can't just go into franchising and make the mistake of trying to structure or even run your franchise like it is a distributorship. Please, they are purely not the same thing, right? You're going to get your fingers burnt. There are so many systems that need to be put in place. There are teams you need to put in place to manage your franchise. There is a capability. You don't just tell people, these are part of the reasons why the old generation franchises failed. You don't tell people, come and franchise with me, and they bring their money, and at the end of the day, they don't do better with you than they would have done, taking the risk of struggling to do it by themselves. So these businesses that want to expand are trained with their team members on how they can grow a global franchise brand. Can you imagine the training system that McDonald's has put in place? I think they are chasing nearly 50,000 outlets now in over, I think, about 120 countries of the world. Can you imagine that? McDonald's feeds 1% of the world's population. If you're going to do that, you need to make preparations. Then we have the investors, the franchisee community, who are also trained so that they can do their work of managing and running an outlet. That is their work. While you, the franchisor, have to do with building the system, providing support, and all of that. Then we have the supplier community. I've seen some people who are chatting, who are saying they want to, provide certain services, or provide funding services. You also need to understand franchises that you are serving. For example, the insurance industry have no idea the opportunity they have in terms of supporting franchises. Huge place for them to go and sell insurance, So these trainings are there. So the Institute is not just for membership, it provides training, but yes, it retains alumni or people who have passed through its very training, and it keeps supplying them researches. There are researches we've done Africa-wide, which Margaret Constantaras here also did a contribution from South Africa. So you can have a global view, a world view of best practices, especially also the local experience with regards to how you can thrive with franchising in Nigeria. Yeah, I see there are more questions. It will really be nice for us to do justice to these questions. Yeah.
Amazing, amazing. Thank you very much, sir, for that, the answer to that question. I would like to direct this next question to Mrs. Margaret. It says, what are the requirements to franchise a business? What are the requirements to franchise a business? Ma'am, you're muted still.
I always forget about the mute button. Sorry about that. What I was saying, if you want to franchise your business, you have to kick off by knowing that you have a product or a service which is going to be acceptable, is going to be desired across other markets other than the one that you are operating in. You need your business to be stable, your first business from which you're going to franchise. I would say those are the two main requirements. Obviously, you do not need to have a lot of capital unless you are planning to keep the franchisees within your business. The alternative, of course, is to sell to franchisees and let them finance their own business, their own startup. It keeps your expansion, your overhead costs for expanding to a relatively low level, and also it keeps the risk at a relatively low level. Your franchisees would benefit, as would the franchise, from economies of scale. So you need to ensure that if you are going to franchise, you need to have a good, solid distribution chain. If you are selling a product or even a service, anything that is required for that service. And I mentioned the funeral industry a little earlier. It's a service, it's counted as a personal service here in South Africa. That's where it's classified, but you can understand there is, can I call it, hardware that is required in the franchise industry as well as offering the service. So yes, you need to make sure you have a good distribution, a good solid distribution chain. And document your processes. Make sure that your processes are very clearly documented. That is very important if you want to franchise your business. I'm not sure what else I can add to that.
Thank you very much. I'm sure that's pretty simple. Any more questions? Kindly just leave them in the chat section. And if you need to know more, like I said, there's a free consultation session for businesses, and we are offering, I don't know if we remember this as well, but Mr. Chiagozie said that he's giving every participant in this room access to the report free. It's actually a paid report. It's actually a gift. I don't know if you realize that. So it's supposed to be paid for, but every participant in this session is getting that free. So I'd just like to encourage you all to follow our social media pages, stay connected via LinkedIn. We have, lots of events like this planned for the rest of the year. You want to the trends, like Mrs. Margaret said, stay up with the trends in your space, in the industry. Join any of our social media pages by following us. The team who would have them projected very soon in the chat section. If you have any more questions, just kindly indicate. Let us know if you haven't dropped your contact. Someone is saying, I don't think 1 hour is enough for this. You're right. Let us have your details so that we can discuss further. We would answer all your questions in the free consultation session. So if you haven't dropped your details, kindly do so. If you have more questions, in the next couple of minutes, we would answer that. If not, we would have to bring this session to a close really soon, really soon. So one last question I would just like to ask, Mrs. Margaret, because this is a seasoned guest. One last question is, how can a business stay resilient? Sorry, let me take that again. How can a franchise stay ahead of competition and stay relevant in the future? How can franchises stay ahead of the competition and stay relevant in the future? Mrs. Margaret, that's for you. Yes.
She's muted.
Okay, I've unmuted. Yes, by being innovative, by being creative, don't shut your franchisees out. They very often come up with very good ideas. I know there are franchisors around there or franchise businesses that don't credit their franchisees with know-how and ideas. That's the wrong attitude to take. Listen, collaborate, support your franchisees. They will help you with innovation, especially because they have local market know-how. You perhaps are sitting in the head office of your franchise in one city and you have got maybe 100 franchise outlets spread throughout the country. You can, or even outside the country, you need them to inform you on local market knowledge. So that is one way of keeping ahead of the competition, is make sure you know your markets. Keep your customer feedback coming in, ask them to suggest improvements. Don't be afraid to try new products, new innovations to your products, especially if you're in a fast food industry. And I'll give you a simple example what the fast food industries in this country did. If you think about, many of them are actually international franchises like KFC, like McDonald's, like Burger King, etc. In South Africa, a very popular dish that many people eat is known as mealie pop. It's a kind of porridge made from wheat, and that not that long ago, I mean, it should have happened longer ago, but not that long ago, these American franchises started offering a typical South African dish, and that took off like crazy. Now, who would have thought of something so, it's an obvious thing, but it took these guys many years to come up with the idea to offer a national dish. And that's the kind of innovations that you need to look for to keep ahead of the market.
Thank you very much for that. Thank you so much. I'm sure business owners, executive directors, managers are super excited to hear all of these tips that you have, shared with us. We are so glad to have had you in this session, and we're looking for many more sessions to come. Okay, so I'll be welcoming Mr. Chiagozie Nwizu to, let's hear some parting words and just have him give his final presentation, speech for this session. Mr. Chiagozie.
All right, thank you very much. So let me just say this, and I think it just really resonates with the question I just saw that dropped. You are here and you are wondering, it's one thing for you to know what your need is, and to say, okay, I came here, I want to ask questions, I want to get a solution to that. But what we have noticed is that we have a solution that many expanding businesses do not even know that those solutions exist. So these are things I want to quickly touch on so that we can take advantage of that. And that is really why you will need to drop your details with us so that these further engagements are going to happen. So number one is that very bit about knowledge, that you need to have a wide understanding of what is going on, the opportunities that you have. Franchising is a very, I don't know how many of you that know that Lagos state government recently had decided that they want to prioritize franchising. Why? Because franchising just helps to create, as you scale businesses, you scale jobs. It has very low rate of failure. So, and any business that continues to open and expand without shutting down will also keep creating jobs. So the government is beginning to prioritize that. And before you know what's happening, more and more funds will be available. You hear the Bank of Industry is creating specialized. Is it when they call you, when that fund is available, you begin to run around? So somebody was asking, okay, I'm not yet ready now. Some of the things you need to start doing now to get franchise ready, you need to know. Maybe, for example, what it takes us to develop a franchise to get it ready, Margaret, is also the expert, can tell you, globally, it takes roughly about 6 months. If you are very, very ready because you've been running a pretty very structured business, maybe about 4 months, because if system is developed and it's going to be piloted, it has to be tested before you announce to the world. You know, it's like you want to go into production of a bottled water and then you don't test it. You say, everybody come and buy. They now begin to realize there are particles, that it has taste, it has coloration, it has smell. They come and throw it back at you. So it is a lot of work. Becoming a global brand, deploying a system that you can stay in Nigeria and you have 10, 20, 30, 100 locations. I know that Slot is planning this year to expand to 200 locations. You know what it means to have phone shops, 200 locations, 100 million naira investment in 1 year. So it is quite a lot of work. It's not something you say, I am ready. You need the expert knowledge. You need to know the guidance so that you begin to prepare. So that the day Bank of Industry or some grants like we're working on them now, we say we want to start offering money because we've seen that franchising helps to create jobs. That day now you come and you realize that you are going to be rejected. Take advantage of this privileged information. Do all you can with it. Beyond that information is the fact that we are, there's a training, right? The training that are going on, which you need. Some of these trainings, like we're always having this webinar, this engagement, so much to learn. We have so much on our YouTube pages. You need to follow us on social media. I don't know that anybody has dropped our social media details here. So you can learn, begin to get yourself prepared so that you can take advantage of what is going on. Are you aware that we recruit franchise partners? Yeah. You just need to set up that very franchise and we're going to bring you the investors. We have about 3,500 people that have monies, ranging from about 500,000. Some of them are institutional investors, corporate investors that have hundreds of millions looking for where they will put it. If you go to the US today, right, that is what some organizations do. They are just mopping up funds for investors. Do you know that pension funds in the US, pension funds, as in when people are saving their pensions, one of the safest places where these pension fund managers are putting the money is into franchises because they are very, very reliable. The sustainability and the rate of success of the business is very high, right? So if you are here, you're already franchising or you are running a distributorship and you are there, you'll be wondering, you have only 2 outlets, but you have potential to be in 20 locations. Talk to us, so that we can bring these people that have money to partner with you, pre-qualified. We'll marry you a wife, right? If that makes sense to you. You know what it means? You are looking for that very babe that understands you, as in you really want to tango with. That is what it is. Yes, franchise is like getting married. You don't just get in bed with anyone, right? So we will do that, for you, right? And then there's this most interesting recent thing that is going on, which is about, funding, right? Funding and management support. So there is support available if you want to franchise your business and you're wondering you don't have the capacity on how you are going to recruit franchisees, how you are going to support the franchisees. There is a franchise management company, and team, which we have built. We can help you to set up that very franchise and manage that very expansion. There is a team of consultants that are available to provide that support. There is funding. People are beginning to put funds together, crowdfunding. You're going to hit the media pretty soon. People sitting down banking, sitting in the bank, there's an awareness, they're looking for where to put their money. So they're going to fund your business and you will not have to pay interest. You borrow money from the bank, you pay 27%. No, these guys, they fund your business at no interest, right? Because you'll be able to expand your brand to different places and you are the one they'll be paying royalties and you're the one that's going to be getting franchise fees. Why? Because you have taken years to build goodwill. You've taken years to build a brand and a system that works. Okay, we promise we are going to keep you here for just about 1 hour, but I can see, there's been some interest that have been sustained. So I'll pass on to you, Stephanie, to give the verdict if we are closing, or if we must answer any 1 or 2 more critical questions so that we can do further engagements for people that have dropped their details. If we get your details, if we get your email, your phone number, especially if you tell us what kind of engagement you want to have with us, we definitely are going to get in touch with you. We'll offer you free consultation that you need, and then you see how you're able to start your journey about franchising.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chiagozie, for that wonderful presentation. So we'd like to be bringing this session to a close, just so that we can, allow for people to just go and soak in, all that they have learned today, all the knowledge that has been shared. It's been amazing. So much knowledge, so much from such wealth of experience from our two seasoned speakers, Mr. Chiagozie and Mrs. Margaret. I would just like us to appreciate them in the chat section. It's been such a wonderful, 1 hour, and we are so glad. So we'll just be bringing this to a close. Thank you, Mr. Chiagozie. Thank you, Mrs. Margaret, for speaking. We truly appreciate you. And, that will be all from us here at FBDS. We'll just leave this the Zoom on for a bit to allow you drop your contacts, connect, take up our social media pages, take up our numbers, just so that you can engage with us while, so you can have time to pick up our numbers. But that's all from us. Thank you all so much for joining. I don't know if our speakers also want to say thank you to our participants so we can bring it to a close.
Thank you, Stephanie. You've also done well. Thank you, Margaret, for joining us. Thank you, everyone. Do have a nice day.
And I would also thank you very much for inviting me to speak. I was very honored to be invited. I appreciate you. Thank you very much.
Thank
you for all listening. Bye. Bye-bye.
Bye, everyone.
According to statistics, franchising is one of the most successful business models with a minimal failure rate.